Welcome to Learning Languages with Lita. Today we're going to start with conversation starters, aka greetings. In French and Spanish, it's really important to distinguish the you that you're using. For example, there's a formal you that's reserved for people that you're meeting for the first time, someone for whom you have a high regard and respect, such as a boss, a teacher, someone older than you. Familiar and informal you is reserved for your friends, your family, classmates, peer group, people younger than you. And it's very important to use the correct you. We don't have that in English. Showing the proper use of you in a conversation, whether it be greetings or just in your verb conjugation, it shows a great cultural awareness and a great ability to use the language properly. So let's get started. We're going to begin our lesson of conversation starters with los saludos, which means greetings. We have 4 basic greetings to start off a conversation. Hola, which is used any time of the day and is usually less formal, mainly friends and family. We have buenos dias, which is used for good morning and is a little bit more formal. Buenas tardes, which is used in the afternoon. And buenas noches, which is evening or night, which can be a saludo or a despedida, which is a goodbye. Once you've used one of these 4 expressions, we move on to how to ask someone how they're doing. We have ¿Cómo estás?, which is how are you, informal, used with family and friends. ¿Cómo está usted?, which is formal. And then ¿Qué tal?, which can be used instead of ¿Cómo estás?, which is another informal way of asking someone how they are doing. How's it going? So you could follow hola with ¿Cómo estás? Hola, ¿qué tal? Buenos días, ¿cómo está usted? Which is a little bit more formal. How do you respond to one of these questions? Those are called respuestas. So when someone is asked, ¿Cómo estás?, the response can be muy bien, bastante bien, así así, muy mal, or mal. When you are meeting someone for the first time, you can ask, ¿Cómo te llamas?, which is how you ask someone their name if you're using an informal way of greeting them. ¿Cómo se llama?, can be used with él, which is he, ella, or usted, which is your formal you. So, ¿Cómo se llama él?, what is his name? ¿Cómo se llama ella?, what is her name? And ¿Cómo se llama usted?, which is our formal you, what is your name? If you want to introduce someone, you would use te presento a. If you're speaking to your friends, this is an informal way of introducing someone. When you are asked, ¿Cómo te llamas?, or ¿Cómo se llama usted?, if you are an usted to the person addressing you, you respond with me llamo, which means my name is. Oftentimes I hear people say me llamo es, which is incorrect. Me llamo is the only thing you need to use for my name is. There's a different expression to say my name is, but we don't use es with me llamo. After you meet someone, you can respond with mucho gusto, which is nice to meet you. Es un placer, nice to meet you again. Encantado or encantada, which is another way of saying nice to meet you, pleasure to meet you. Now, how do we say goodbye in Spanish? We have adios, which is an expression used when you're probably not going to see someone for a little while. Hasta luego, notice our H is silent, which is used for I'll see you later. Hasta mañana, I'll see you tomorrow. Hasta pronto, I'll see you soon. Nos vemos, see ya, which is definitely an informal way of saying goodbye to some friends or family. Okay, let's put some of these conversation starters together. Again, we start with hola when we want to speak to our friends and family. And we can follow that with ¿Cómo estás?, or ¿Qué tal?. So let's practice that together. Hola, ¿cómo estás? Hola, ¿qué tal? We can also use buenos días. And then if we're going to be more formal, we would change ¿cómo estás? To ¿cómo está usted? We would reserve that for someone who is older, someone you have a more formal relationship with. We can also use buenas tardes and buenas noches if we're greeting in the evening or saying goodnight as well. When asking someone how they are, or when you're responding to the question, how are you, whether it be formal or informal, ¿cómo estás? ¿Cómo está usted? You may respond in a few ways. You can use the word estoy, which is the I form of the verb estás or está. If you're in a more informal conversation, you can leave estoy off and just simply respond with how you're feeling. And some of those choices are bien, for you're doing well, or even muy bien. Putting muy in front means very. You can say así, así, which is so-so. Bastante bien, quite well. Muy mal, you're not doing very well at all. Or just mal by itself. So let's practice. I ask, ¿cómo estás? You can respond that you're doing very well. What would you say? Hopefully you said, estoy muy bien. What if you're not doing well at all? ¿Cómo estás? How would you respond? Estoy muy mal, or estoy mal. If you're doing so-so, how would you respond? ¿Cómo estás? Estoy así, así. And if you're doing fairly well, how would you respond to ¿cómo estás? Bastante bien. If you are ever asked your name in an informal situation, ¿cómo te llamas? You would respond with me llamo and your name. If you are in a formal conversation and someone asks ¿cómo se llama?, you would also use me llamo and your name. If you're asking about someone else's name, ¿cómo se llama él? ¿Cómo se llama ella? Then you would respond with the same verb form and use se llama followed by their name. So let's practice. Introduce yourself once I ask your name. ¿Cómo te llamas? Hopefully you said me llamo followed by your name. Once introductions have been made, you can follow up with the expression es un placer or es un placer, pleasure to meet you. Or you may use encantado for male, encantada for female. Or mucho gusto, which is another way of saying nice to meet you, pleasure to meet you. If you're introducing someone to a friend of yours, you would use the expression te presento a, followed by the name. And for the last part of the lesson, how to say goodbye. Depending on when you're going to see the person, you may choose to say adios, which means you're probably not going to see them anytime soon. Hasta luego, if you're going to see them later on. If you're not going to see them until tomorrow, you would say hasta mañana. If you're going to see them soon, hasta pronto. And then a very informal way of saying see ya would be nos vemos. So let's practice these 5 expressions. Adiós, hasta luego, hasta mañana, hasta pronto, nos vemos. For additional practice, you can go to Quizlet.com and there you will find the class for Robin_Hill17, where I have uploaded and created classes that's specifically tailored for each lesson that I provide on YouTube. There's a link below in the description box to download the flashcards to go with today's lesson as well. Thanks for stopping by. I'll see you next time.